What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to do some drum brakes, so stay tuned. Alright guys, this is what it is right here. Today we're working on a Jeep Patriot, as you can see. I will put the year in the title or something. This is going to be in part how to do the drum brakes on this vehicle specifically, but it's also going to be a tutorial on drum brakes in general, because a lot of them are pretty much the same. And I figured because we're going to be doing the entire job on this vehicle, which is drums, shoes, hardware kit, and even the wheel cylinders, figured I'd go ahead and do a video on this, since drum brakes tend to be the more pain in the ass type of brakes, and a lot of people don't know how to do them. So if you follow along with me today, you're going to know how to do them and be able to save yourself lots of money. All right, so on this particular setup, what we want to do is beat on it between the studs here and pull the drum off. And then we can address the other parts. However, I will give a warning. If you have a vehicle that has a dust cap right here, it's kind of like a little ball shape, then chances are your drum is held on by a hub nut in this area, and you do not want to just go beating on it because it won't actually come off. So you'll have to pull the dust cap off, and then you'll have to take the nut off that's inside here. But on this one, if you do not see a dust cap or a nut, then you're safe to go ahead and hit this with a hammer, and then your drum should come off. All right, so once you've tapped on it a little bit, you're going to see that it separates from around this center area here. And this bad boy is rusty. Another thing you want to do, which I didn't do yet, make sure your parking brake isn't on, which it isn't in this case. So we may just need to do a few more little taps. Man, this bad boy is real rusty. Shit. Yeah, they definitely need this. Sometimes it helps to hit it a little on the side with like a pulling out motion as well. In worst case scenario, you back it off a little and then you can pry it out with something else, which we may have to try if this don't come off here in a sec. Now when you're doing this, you don't want to pry very hard, because these backing plates are usually pretty flexible, so you don't want to bend it up. There we go, we're getting somewhere. Wow, I can't believe this. Someone's actually driving on the road with these. Hopefully the inside looks better than the outside. Man. And this is one of the many reasons why drum brakes are so fun. Give ourselves a little assistance here. Spray some PB all up in there. Even down in here a little bit, because we're replacing all this stuff anyway. Get me a smaller pry bar here too. That way I can actually get a pull on it. That other one I was fighting with the curvature of the wheel well here. I think she's going to come off. We're getting there. Now normally, if you replace your brakes more often, then you won't have as much trouble as I'm having here. But in some ways, I'm actually kind of glad this is happening, because you guys get to see what you're in for here. And I don't necessarily say that to like try to prevent you from doing it yourself, but these can definitely be a hassle, that's for sure. Especially if you've got an older vehicle and you got drum brakes on the front. My God. So it looks like we basically got it off here. That's what the inside looks like. Terrible. I mean, it's got a smooth surface, sort of, compared to this shit, but definitely not good. So now the next thing we're going to do is start taking all this stuff apart right here. Alright guys, went ahead and switched my gloves because they got all tore up on that drum there. Then I sprayed all this down with some brake cleaner. Now we're going to assess what we need to do to get this off. I want to say this top spring right here, you may not be able to see it, but it follows the length of my finger and it stops right around here. So I think that's what we're going to do first, is go ahead and remove this spring. And then we're also going to remove these circular springs as well on both sides, and there's a special tool for that I'll show you. All right, so now we're going to use a tool like this, or you can use some pliers to get that spring off. Then we're going to use a tool kind of like this one here to get those circular springs off. You just give them a push and a twist, and these rusty ones might be stuck in place, but you basically want to get it where the little stud or the nail that it's on turns 90 degrees. We may need to spray those as well just to get it to even move. Yeah, drum brakes that are rusted are the absolute worst kind to do, I must say. Jeez, man. Okay, it's moving now. Let me hold this nail in place. There we go. It helps to find the nail on the back side here and stop it from moving. Look how rusty that is. That's insane. I wonder if this vehicle even came from around here, because even our cars don't get quite this rusty unless you just really don't maintain it. There we go. Come on now. Like right there, come out. There we go. Now that one's out. Once again, very rusty. Kind of keep your parts together as well, and we'll go over that in just a moment. But you want to make sure that you have all the same stuff in your hardware kit as what you took off. Now there's a spring on the bottom here. I know I said I was going to take the top one off, but what I might actually do is take this one off first. So use our little spring tool here, and it may or may not even work. Well, we bent it real good. I'm gonna get me some pliers instead. Okay, got these out. All right, now that bottom spring is out. There's that one. Holds the shoes together at the bottom. Now we might be able, no, it's still stuck on the parking brake thing. But I was gonna say we might be able to get most of this out of here. No, we're gonna have to take off that top spring I was talking about now. Use our little spring puller tool here. I went right past it. And that sucker's on there. That's to be expected though, with how rusty they are. Sometimes you gotta really give it hell to get it off of there, but they will come off. Even if you gotta break the damn thing, it will come off. There's our other one in 2 pieces. Like I said, keep all your old parts together for now, because you want to make sure that your hardware kit has all the right stuff in it, because otherwise you won't be able to put it back together. We're going to take this last spring off. Hopefully this works. Oh, come on. It's on the back side there too. Real pain to get to. Okay, and then our little parking brake piece came off. We want to make sure we remember how that was put on there. It's kind of an L shape, right? We're on the driver's side, so it's going to be just like that, because the part pointing towards the front is actually what touches up against the star wheel adjuster, which I'll show you that in just a moment as well. So now we're going to fuck this spring up too, get it off. Now everything's apart. We got this other spring, we got our forward shoe here, set that to the side, and then this is our star wheel adjuster, and we're probably going to want to adjust it in a little bit. And I don't know if you noticed, but this one's actually reverse thread, so we're going to loosen it by a couple turns, and then we're going to leave it alone. Also, we're going to remember that the star wheel itself went towards the rear on this particular side. You do have to kind of take note of a lot of different things while you're in here doing this. Now the next thing we need to do, which I hope you guys can see, is we have to get this little horseshoe looking thing off here so we can disconnect our parking brake from the other shoe. So we're just going to try to bend that bad boy up with some pliers or something, and we'll get her off there. I think I've actually had good luck putting a flathead screwdriver between the tips and then trying to twist it. So we'll go ahead and do that now. See if that'll help us out a little bit here. Probably not. You can also kind of angle it towards the shoe and then pry up on it to get it out of there, but that doesn't always work the greatest either. I must say that this thing right here, I don't know if they make a special tool for it or what, but I know this guy right here is oftentimes, for me anyway, one of the more difficult parts of the job, just getting this damn thing off and getting the new one put on. It's not really a practical way of getting these off. If anybody else has any better tools they know of to get these off, let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, we're going to work on her here and we'll get it off. And then we've pretty much got everything taken apart. So we're nearly 25% of the way done here almost. Twisting it up. There we go. Finally got her off. Other shoe. Okay. Now we need to take off the wheel cylinder, which that's going to be some bolts on the back side. You can usually feel them and see them. And then there's also going to be a nut that holds the brake line on. So these look like 10 millimeters. So I think we'll go ahead and do that. But before I do that, I'm going to get a wire brush and we're going to clean up these contact points and grease them up real good. Just found a 13 millimeter wrench I thought I lost. That's always good news as a mechanic. Now, I'm going to bring you guys up here for a second. Oh, come on now. You can kind of see what I'm working with back here. There's two 10 millimeter bolts, and then there's like a 13 nut that holds this line on. I'm going to put you guys back over here. But just know that that's what I'm taking off over here. So I'm actually going to start by loosening the line itself while the wheel cylinder is still attached. And it appears that it is not a 13. Down to a 12 here. And ideally, you would use a line wrench for this. But I don't actually have any of those, really. So we're doing the best with what we got here. Okay. Oh boy, that's on there. That's sketchy indeed. You may really want to try to use a line wrench on this one. What I'd also like to do is take the bleeder screw out, just because of the way that it's kind of blocking the nut that holds the line on. The bleeder screw appears to be an 8 millimeter. And of course I can't get straight on it because the line's in the way. We'll have to get shorter side. I even brought a wrench over just in case. Of course that socket's going to be too short. That's alright. Okay. Wow, that sucker is real rusty. Holy shit. Oh yeah, that thing's so rusted it's stripped out. So we might have to just try to work around the bleeder screw there. And I'm going to put some PB all on here so we can try to get this thing off of there the best we can. And I really hope that this 12 I got will do the job. Let me see what else I got here. It does not look like I've got any better wrench than this one, unfortunately. Oh, looks like we got it though. That's an excellent sign. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. One thing too you got to be careful of on this stuff is you might think that you're turning the nut, but you're actually twisting the line itself and breaking it. So I really hope that that's not what I'm doing here. However, I'm going to be going back and forth a little bit on this line. I know you guys can't see exactly what I'm doing here, but we're going to try our very, very best not to snap this off here. I feel like it almost could be an 11 for real. So much rust buildup on there, it's kind of hard to tell. Well, the 11 isn't wanting to fit, so it's probably either the 12 or it's a damn standard size, because for whatever reason, you still run into that stuff sometimes. Man, I wish I could get that bleeder screw out. Can't hardly even spin this nut at all with it in the way. I don't know if my 3/8 8mm is any better than this. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not really any deeper than the 1/4 inch. We're just gonna have to keep on keeping on. It's coming though, that's for sure. Just gotta be patient. And they put it in quite the tight spot also. It almost looks like this line was replaced at some point, maybe because of the rust, but who knows. Alright, it's pretty much out of there for the most part. Give it the last few turns with some pliers. Won't hurt nobody. Now, what we're going to do is get these bolts out, if they're not too rusty to even come out. Alright, we got one of them. That bolt looks terrible. Super rusty. Not even a huge fan of putting that back in, to be honest with you. And of course, you can't get a socket on that one. Get us another wrench. Try to put it on there over the rust. Okay. Of course. This is a fun one. Oh yeah, that's completely stripped out. Not good. I don't know how much these are going to help, but we'll try some needle nose vice grips. Honestly, this is probably just going to make it worse, but we'll see. Can't even fit them in there. Wow. I hate rust, guys. I hate it so much. This is ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. I'm going to pause you guys till I figure out what I'm going to do. Alright, so I ended up using my needle nose vice grips here and grabbed the bleeder screw. Got that bad boy out of there. And then I used the same thing on that last bolt. And we got really lucky that our new wheel cylinder actually comes with new bolts. So this is just to show you what I was working with on the back. Those two threaded holes are where the bolts holds it in on the back, and then of course you've got your bleeder screw, and the yellow thing is where the line goes in. And so I basically stopped right where I was at, and now that I've got that bolt out, I'm going to give the wheel cylinder just a little tap. That should come out of there. There we go. Man, that sucker is rusty. Good thing we're replacing it. Now I'm going to take my wire brush, clean some of that bullshit off of there. Man, this thing is one of the rustiest set of drum brakes I might have ever done. When you're at this step, I wanted to pause here because if it's your own vehicle and you really want to prolong the life of it, I would recommend actually cleaning it really good, the backing plate, and spray painting it with a thin coat of black spray paint or Rust-Oleum or something, and that'll keep that surface from rusting any worse and keep your brakes in better condition over time. Clean all that up real good once again. And man, oh man, I will say it once more, I am so very thankful that this new part just comes with the new bolts, because I probably had some that would work, but it's nice that it just comes with it, and I don't have to worry about that, because these bolts were most definitely an issue on this vehicle. So we're going to put it in now with our, not upside down, we're going to put it with our bleeder screw on the top here. We're going to put our bolts on. You know what? Before I do that, actually, I'm going to take this yellow thing out. It seems like it'd be easier to take that out while it's not in here. Alright, we got one bolt threaded in. I guess I forgot to mention, I did go ahead and take this line loose from a couple of its connections here also, just to give me a little bit of extra room here. Now we're going to take our 10mm wrench and tighten these bolts down the rest of the way. Kind of tighten them evenly too. You don't want to go super tight on one before you tighten the other one. And then I think the next step is I'm going to go ahead and put this brake line back in, and I may add a little bit of brake fluid because this guy's been dripping for quite a while now. Alright, that's pretty good and tight on that one. Alright, now we got our new wheel cylinder installed. I'll go ahead, make sure there's no debris in your brake line, and then we will route our line back down here, put it in place, and then we want to get it started here, which still seems like it's kind of rough going on that. I like to be able to turn this by hand to get it started, so I'm going to kind of try to give it some twists with a wrench, free up any debris or grime that may be in there. And I may even do, trying not to get any into the brake system itself, I'm going to spray a little bit of PV Blaster into that nut as well, and we'll try to work some of that in there, because I definitely don't want to strip this out trying to put it back in there. The threads on these are usually pretty fine, so you want to be very careful of that. Yeah, it's almost like the damn line is threaded to the nut, or vice versa. It's not a bad idea, I don't think, when you're installing this one, to go ahead and take the bleeder screw out as well. You'll just have a whole lot easier time getting to that line back here and making sure that it goes in straight. And you have a much larger swing on your wrench as well. I believe that we've got it started successfully without stripping it, thankfully. Oh yeah, you get quite a bit more swing on your, almost 3 times as much on your wrench with that bleeder screw out of the way. Very close. All right. All right, we got it good and tight. Clean her up. Okay. We'll put this bleeder screw back in. All right, guys, stepping away from the vehicle for a moment. This is what I was talking about earlier. You want to compare all your old springs to the new springs that are in your kit. And then, of course, you want to have double what you pulled off because there are two sides. It does look like we have the correct hardware kit. And now we can focus on starting to put everything back together. All right, so the shoes actually came with these horseshoe clips that are open a little more and look like they'll be easier to put on. So I'm going to go ahead and use the ones that came with the shoes instead of the ones that came with the hardware kit. Yeah, and it just fell right into place. It's perfect. And then now we'll get us a pair of pliers or something, and we'll squeeze those two together a little bit where it doesn't come off. Give it one more good squeeze. Yeah, that should be perfect. That guy's not going to come off anytime soon. We can kind of set that to the side. I don't want to set that in this brake fluid that spilled. And now we're going to take our brake grease. We're going to put some on all of those contact points that we cleaned earlier, because the brake shoes do rub against this. Don't want to overdo it, but also because of the amount of rust that was in here, I am going to put a fair amount on each one. And now what we can do is go ahead and take our nail spring and put it in, and that's going to kind of lock our rear shoe in place. All right, so we're going to turn this around. We're going to get it up here in place. Right about there. And we'll take our nail. We'll put it in from the back side. If you can find it. There we go. Just triple check here. Yeah. All right. So we got our shoe into the wheel cylinder, and we've got our nail through the hole. We'll get our spring on the nail, and then our washer. We'll make sure that they're lined up right. And we'll get our tool. And then we will push and twist. Just like that. Except I kind of don't think that the parking brake was rubbing against the spring here before. That's interesting. I wonder if that doesn't go on the back side now that I think about it. Let me see here. Yep, I did it wrong. It goes on the back side, that's why. Let me take that out real quick. That's awesome, now we gotta struggle with this again. And I put this one on there pretty damn good, too. Oh, nice. Just popped right off. Maybe. Oh, come on. There we go, we got enough of there. This is the shoe for the other side. I probably won't even cut that out, so you guys can see that it is possible to make a mistake, and it's not that hard to do either. And maybe I shouldn't reuse this clip, but I think it'll be just fine. Alright, put this there. And then we'll go right back where we're supposed to be here. And yeah, that seems a lot more correct than before. Because now we don't have our parking brake rubbing against the spring. Okay, we got our nail in there, we got our spring in place. Whoops. And we got our shoe into the wheel cylinder here. Yeah, everything seems to be in place. So now, I think that kind of hangs on like that. Not 100%, but I'm gonna go grab the other parts here. So I do remember that this small spring went in there like that for sure. And then I don't know why they did that, but somehow the wheel cylinder piston is 180 from what it should be. Okay, that's kind of what we're going for here, roughly. And I believe that we can go ahead and put our nail in. We can kind of lock that in place now. And then the other springs and everything will be a little bit more difficult to put on, but at least the gist of it is kind of in place, and we're not fighting with shoes trying to fall off and everything like that. This is just going to keep everything in place for us. There we go. Now, I'm going to move some tools out of the way and we'll be right back. Alright, so we pretty much have everything installed here. I'm sorry I didn't film all that, but it's basically just watching me struggle. I know you guys didn't want to just watch me struggle some more, but I'm going to walk through everything I just did. We had the spring on the bottom already installed. We already had our nail springs installed. This green spring in the back, it goes through the same hole as the black spring, and then on the other side, it goes through this hole. I did not do this, but I would recommend that you put this spring on first because it's way more difficult to put it on with the black one in the way. The black one also goes through this same little oval-shaped hole right by the edge of the star adjuster, and it goes over here. The long, straight part of the spring connects to this little L-shaped piece, which, if you'll notice, touches the star wheel adjuster and actually locks it into place. So once I got all of those in, using a combination of pliers and screwdrivers and my brake tool, one thing you can do is put these into the edge of the spring, and then you can put it into the hole, and then you can kind of tilt it, and the spring will actually slide down the tool right into place. So that's very helpful for sure. But now that we've got everything put into place, I did go ahead and adjust the star wheel in a little bit further, and I made sure that the shoes were in place and the wheel cylinder, as well as behind this piece here. They need to be behind that on the bottom. And now we're ready to basically size up our drum here and make sure that it has the proper amount of drag. Just went ahead and tried to size up the drum, and it does look like we need to adjust it a little further. And since it's reverse thread, we want to turn it down, or towards us, I guess, like this. Anyway, in order to do that, we need to pull this back away from the star, and then we can put a screwdriver in here and kind of pry like that against the wheel cylinder, and that'll basically make the shoes come closer together, because at this time I cannot fit the drum on there. We want to be able to slide the drum on. It needs to be able to spin, but it also needs to have a little bit of drag, and that's something that you'll just get a feel for after doing a lot of drum brakes, how much drag it needs to have. But that's what we're going to set up now. All right, guys, I literally had to adjust that all the way down for the drum to even go on. That's not normal. A lot of times you don't have to adjust it all the way in, although sometimes you do have to go pretty far. Even though I will say it kind of makes sense, you adjust it all the way down when you have fresh pads, and then over time it adjusts automatically and it gets larger. But I just don't run into that too often where it has to go all the way down. But it's got a little bit of drag on there, right about what we want. To be honest with you, it might have a slight amount more than what we want, but we can't really go down any further, and the wheel does clearly spin even by hand. So once the wheel goes on there, I don't think we're going to have any issues at all. So I'm going to go ahead and put the wheel back on and torque it to 100 foot-pounds, and then we're going to move to the other side. Just kidding, I got a little ahead of myself. We got our bleeder equipment here. We need to bleed this line because we did open the system and introduce air into it. So make sure that your brake fluid is topped off. And then I'm going to go ahead and start pumping the brakes, and we should see, well, maybe you can see it, we should start to see fluid coming out into that bottle there, and that means we're clearing the line and we're flushing the line. We're going to need to do that on both sides. So you usually want to do about 1 full bottle of brake fluid when you're bleeding the brakes, and that way you should be able to clear out any of the air in the lines, and you should be able to clear out any dirty fluid in the line. And once that's done, we can go ahead and move to the other side. I got our wheel put back on, torqued to 100 foot-pounds. See them brand new brakes up in there. We went ahead and topped our brake fluid back off, and then I went ahead and jacked it up, and I got the wheel off and I got the drum off. I'm going to go through this side a little bit faster because it's pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is it's like a mirror image of the other side. So the rear shoe is still on the rear. This piece is still on the rear shoe. The parking brake, everything is still the same, except it's on the left now instead of on the right. So our star adjuster still goes towards the rear. Everything that went towards the rear before is going to still go towards the rear. Now we're going to clean this off because I'm already dirty enough. Man, look at all that nasty shit coming off of there. She definitely needed this, so we're definitely doing a good deed today by replacing this here. Anyway, I got the drum off now, so now we're going to go ahead and start disassembling the shoes and springs. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to go through this side a little bit quicker. I got everything taken apart using all the special tools that we talked about before, those two, plus some pliers. Pretty much the same as the other side. I scrubbed down the backing plate a little bit with a wire brush and went ahead and lubed up all of our spots that we need to put lube on. And then luckily the rear bolts actually came out fairly easily for the wheel cylinder, and then the nut came off about as easy as the other side did. It wasn't super difficult, but it also wasn't easy. And I did end up actually having to break the bleeder screw off completely with a hammer because I just could not get it out no matter what I did. So now we are 75% of the way done with the job. We've got the driver's side completely done and the passenger side taken apart. Here's all of our old parts removed from the vehicle. So now I'm going to go ahead and get started putting everything back together. Alright, so now we got our wheel cylinder reinstalled. Once again, I removed the bleeder screw to get the line out. We got our new bolts in there. I also put PB Blaster into the back of the flare nut there in an attempt to get it to thread in more smoothly. Luckily we did get it to thread in without stripping it out. So everything's good to go with that. And before I go much farther, for some reason, the dickheads that made this part put these in at a 180. So we're going to have to turn those a little bit so that they line up with our shoes. And we're going to go ahead and start putting the shoes on. Yes, I should also mention I took the other shoe off here of the parking brake cable. And that's going to kind of go back up here with our shoe. So we're going to get that, get started putting it back together. Well, it took a bit of effort, but we finally got that top spring in. Remembering we put the short hook on the front side in the same hole as the back spring. And then the longer hook goes right in this little notch on the L-shaped piece. And what I ended up doing is I put it in on the right side. I took a screwdriver into the hook, and then I put it in here, and I just kind of slid it, or I rolled it over this way, and the spring slid down right into place, and then you kind of work your screwdriver out without pulling the spring out as well. We got our star adjuster in here. We got our L-shaped piece connected to the star wheel just as it should be. And now that it's all the way adjusted in, we should be able to easily slide the drum on. Alright, and with the drum on and everything adjusted all the way down, we do have a little bit of drag. It's a little less than I'd like to have, so I might adjust it a tooth or two, but for the most part, that's where we want to be at. So after adjusting it out a little bit, we got just a little bit more drag, and I think that's good. That should be where we want it. I also want to take this opportunity to mention that this side's star wheel adjuster was regular thread, and that's not abnormal, actually. The threads on the star wheel adjuster on one side are going to be reverse thread, and they're going to be normal thread on the opposite side. I don't know if the normal thread is always on the passenger side or not. I would venture to say no, but that's how it is on this particular vehicle. So now we're going to go ahead and bleed this wheel as well. Now we got roughly a full bottle. I think some of it dripped out in there, but we got the air in the line and the dirty fluid cleared out. And that's what you want to do this for, is because you don't want this dirty shit in there, do you? Put some fresh, clean fluid in. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, tighten up the bleeder screw. Alright, and now that we're done with that, we want to go ahead and top off our brake fluid. Get it to the full mark. I'm not going to fill it up quite as much as I had it filled before, because I'm sure that the fill mark is lower than the top of the reservoir. That's probably good enough right there. And then I personally like to take some brake cleaner and clean off the reservoir a little bit, just so that under the hood it does look like the brakes have been recently serviced. And also, it's not a bad idea while you're at it to go ahead and take off the front wheels and bleed the front brakes as well, just to clear out all of the dirty fluid from the system. However, bleeding the brakes on the rear is an absolute mandatory. You must do that because we've replaced the wheel cylinders and therefore we introduced air into the system. If you are just doing the shoes, you do not have to do that, but if you replace the wheel cylinders or the brake caliper, you must bleed the brakes on that particular wheel at the minimum. Alright, so we got both of our rear wheels on, torqued to 100 foot-pounds, our brake fluid cleaned up, our area cleaned up, our tools put away. So the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and take it for a test drive, make sure that our brake pedal feels good, make sure that our stopping is good, make sure that our rear brakes are not locking up for any reason, make sure that, you know, it seems like it's not just the front brakes that are working, make sure the pedal doesn't feel spongy, and then when you get back, you want to make sure that the brake fluid is not leaking from the back where we replaced the lines. Also, I do want to mention that the ABS and traction control lights were on this vehicle prior to me working on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it for a test drive and we'll be right back. All right, all finished up. I think that stuff is just from spraying it before, but everything seems to be good to go after the test drive, so we are all finished up. And that's going to be the end of our video today on the brake replacement tutorial, as well as a 2009 Jeep Patriot rear brakes replacement. Hope you all enjoyed the video. We are just a few away from 600 subscribers, so if you want to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate that. Otherwise, I will see you next time.